All right. Our unit is 5, which is titled Identify, Evaluate the Challenges of Assessment and Implementation. And the objectives of this unit is for you to be able to, is for you to investigate the design of an assessment plan for a country as well as for a classroom. Explain the issues to keep in mind when implementing assessment. Discuss the challenges that comes with assessment. Critically analyze the challenges in the Namibian education system. And the last objective is for you to be able to investigate ideas. How to use assessment to improve learning. Okay, quick question. Before you decide to go on a road trip, let's say you decide to go, visit areas starting from Windhoek to Oranjemond. All right. And there are a number of towns. You have a road trip with your friends. What do you do before you get onto this road trip? Plan, yes. Know the weather, okay. All right, know the weather and hopefully have, okay, Amelia is writing. It's true, you need to know the weather. To know if you have enough money, yes, of course, money also is very important. Book your accommodation, yes, of course. Plan, budget, prepare, of course, yes. And all the points that you have mentioned, they are very important, and all this falls under the planning part. So you need to know the weather because you don't want to go with the wrong kind of clothes. You need to know where you're going to stay, where you're going to stop. You need to know how much money you have. Do you have enough money? And hopefully before you decide to go on this road trip, you have budgeted for the road trip, if you know what I mean. Like you budgeted for the road trip, you have enough money. You need to know the condition of the car. Of course, you need to know that because you don't want it to break down on your way. So in other words, you really need to plan. All right, money, yes, the budget part. You need to have a plan, and this applies to assessment. When you are when it comes to assessment, you should also have an assessment plan. All right, don't just do things simply out of the blue. And then this plan is linked to the purpose. So the assessment plan, now we are talking about assessment plan. This plan is linked to the purpose, the mission, the goals, and objective of the institute. And the objectives of the institutes are mostly, they are always provided by the Ministry of Education, and the program or the school where the assessment is. So there should be a purpose, mission, and goal for the school as well. All right, and this could be slightly different from the mission and goals that are provided by the Ministry of Education, but it should be driven from the goal that has been given by the Ministry of Education. And next, plan. I deal with matters such as plan deals with matters. So the assessment plan deals with matters such as frequency, like how often would you be assessing, at which intervals within, let's say, a semester or a year. will you be giving assessment, and the general approach, and we'll see the general approach of that comes with assessment plan. Next, you must know the what. You must know what you want to do. Why do you want to do it? How you're going to do it, and what you're going to do with the results. So, what do you want to do has everything to do with like what kind of assessment are you going to carry out, what type of assessment, and then why are you giving this assessment, the purpose of your assessment, and how are you going to do it, like which instruments are you going to use, and what are you going to do with the results, because there should be a purpose for you to assess the learners, right? You should have a plan, like why are you assessing them and what are you going to use the results for. Next, the assessment plan. Okay, the assessment plan has got 6 components. The first one is for you to create a vision and mission statement, and then the next one is establish program and course learning outcomes and objectives, establish methodologies to assess achievement of outcome, gather and analyze evidence by implementing the methods, the methodologies, and then share the results of the analysis and make evidence-based improvement as needed. All right, we will look at these steps in more details in a little bit. Okay, like what does that mean exactly? We will find out in a little bit. All right, and then other important aspects that you need to consider are that the plan should, like, what should the plan do? One, it should flow from institution, mission, and statement. All right, your assessment plan should be connected to the mission and mission vision statement of the institute. That is now what's provided by the Ministry of Education, lead to institutional improvement, and also for the school. All right, lead to institutional improvement. There should be some sort of improvement that you do after you have given you have attained the results from the assessment that you've given. Be implemented according to a timeline. There should be a timeline that you have, and set it out in such a way that it indicates which points you are going to carry out the assessment, analyze the data, and plan it, analyze the data as well, and make some sort of a improvement. Have a departmental ownership and responsibility, like everybody should be responsible when it comes to their participation in assessment. It's not just for certain people, but everybody should be given that sense of responsibility and ownership within the department. Have institute-wide support, so have support from everybody, different stakeholders. All right, and then use multiple methods and or measures. Provide multiple so don't just use one type of assessment, but use multiple types of assessment, and then provide feedback to the learners and the institute. Oh, we are still on the same one, Rosalia. All right, we are still on the same one. And then multiple methods and or measures, and then provide feedback to the learners after you have assessed them. Give them some sort of feedback, the learners now, as well as the institute, because results are always used for something, right? And this, as an example, will be lead to improvement. All right, the results need to be used to provide, allow for improvement. Next, now we are going to look at the 6 steps, the ones that we have just covered earlier, that I say that we're going to cover in details in relation to the Namibian context. All right, question mark there. First, we are looking at the first component, which is create a vision and mission statement. So the first step is really to identify what the purpose of assessment is. All right, and each component in the curriculum serves some sort of purpose. So purpose statement make purpose explicit and begin to identify what is important in the assessment plan. So they state this clearly, like everybody should understand it when they read it. They should understand what the purpose of the assessment plan is. Purpose of statement should describe what the academic program is. So what program are we assessing? So let's say, the academic program, or the academic, that's the school, all right? What is it? What is that purpose? And then for whom is it, all right? The assessment plan, like for whom is it? For whatever grade that you are teaching. It should summarize educational approach, philosophy, and clearly establish its relationship with Ministry of Education and school mission statement. And it must identify how the program contributes to the education and the career of learners, purpose, support of Ministry of Education mission statement. And that's what does the mission and vision state? It should be clear of what its purpose is, and it should be linked to the mission statement given by the ministry as well as that of the school. And also it should indicate, as we have seen here, indicate how it's going to contribute to the education and the careers of the learners. All right, that's why the mission and vision is super global. It's very general of what the program or the school's mission or purpose is. What is it going to cover, all right? And how is it going to improve or contribute, rather, to the career and the education of the learners? Okay, so that's the first one. Do you have questions so far? It's clear, right? Such a tough day today. Okay, I'm assuming that is a yes, and we are moving on. Establish program and course learning objective and outcomes. So program goals can be included as part of the purpose statement or separately. And that is now to say, that's very self-explanatory. I don't have to add on that. Purpose of goal the purpose of goal is to clearly communicate direction and aspiration of the program. All right, and goals are specified in relation to its major functions such as instruction, learner learning, research, and service. All right, they are always connected. We cannot have them separate in any way. And program goals and statement provide impetus for planning, continuous improvement effort. That is now to say that program goals and statement should help the planning, should make it easy for the planning and the continuous improvement effort within institution, right? They should help. Like when you are planning, whatever plan that you do should be related to the goals and statement, and whatever improvement and continuous, because improvement doesn't just happen once, it should be continuous. It should be related to the program and statement, like what kind of improvement do you want to do, and the goals and statement do help you decide on what improvements to work on. Primary goals should be those pertaining to the learner's learning. All right. Yes, it's clear. And then next, goals strive to achieve in the long term. Goals strive to achieve in the long term are written more broadly and in more inclusive language. So here we are going to look at the difference between the goal and objectives. All right, goals and objectives. So when it comes to goals, they are more generic, like very broad, not specific, and then they use inclusive language. They state what the program wants to accomplish or become over time. All right, what does the program because here we are looking at the broader term and looking at it from this program itself, the perspective of the program. And then goals define a set of specific observable and measurable learners' learning outcomes. For example, things like gain an understanding of, become aware of, develop and appreciate whatever that they need to. All right, so this is like the starting phrases for the goals. And then moving on, performance objectives flow from the program goals. So, and yeah, we can see now that it's narrowing down and objectives are more narrowed compared to the goals. And they are narrowed, they are taken from the program goals. Objectives are brief, clear statement of learning outcomes of an of instruction. It has more precise terms and should focus on the learners rather than the curriculum, all right? Or the program in itself, the curriculum itself. Objectives are written with action verbs and statements rather than vague statements. So vague statements are acceptable in goals, but then when it comes to objectives, they need to be more specific. And we have got action verbs that we need to use. And the action verbs that we need to use are the ones that are related to Bloom taxonomy. All right.
Miss?
Yes.
What are vague statements?
Vague.
What are vague?
Vague, they are broad, like they are not specific. The opposite of vague is specific. Does that answer your question?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, good. So here is a list of some action verbs from Bloom taxonomy, and they are written and categorized according to to the levels that we have spoken about in earlier classes. And here this part, knowledge, comprehension, evaluation, we have mentioned that that's the old version of the Bloom taxonomy, but then the one that is commonly used is the one below: remember, understand, apply, analyze, evaluate, and create. And you can see that the one under here, they are verbs. All right, they are verbs, while the ones on top here, which is why it's even attributed to the older version, is because it's all nouns: knowledge, comprehension, application, analysis, synthesis, and evaluation. Those are more nouns, and we have moved away from that to action verbs. And here we've got a number of action verbs that you can use when you are creating your objectives, because they need to be more specific. And also another point that I want to make is that even when you are creating your task or activities, you need to use action verbs, these verbs, when you are creating your activities, all right, rather than nouns as they have done in the past. All right, and moving on. Specific performance objectives offer the best available means to measure the achievement of the educational goals, because again we mentioned that objectives are related to the goals, and then for you now to achieve those vague goals that are more generic, then you need to subdivide them into objectives that are more measurable, that are more attainable, and then I don't need to go further. And then performance objectives differ from goals by 3 characteristics. And the first one is specify the learner behavior that will be accepted as evident that the objective is met. So you have to be specific, like what kind of behavior, what kind of skill, all right, will the learners need to show to ensure that, to give you feedback that the objective has been attained. All right. Describe the condition under which the behavior is expected to occur. right? How are they going to show this skill? What kind of performance do they need to do to show this behavior? All right. And then third, specify the criteria of acceptable performance that the learners must attain. So criteria is related to, what is another word for criteria? Anyone? Or related to criteria? Or a tool that you can use to indicate the criteria or standards. Okay, yeah, standards. Okay, that is the synonyms, the basis, layout maybe. That's a good try. So we will have standards, we'll have criteria. Okay, standards, criteria, they are used interchangeably. And then now we say we create a rubric. All right, that's where you indicate the criteria that you're going to use, or even a checklist to indicate the standards that you're going to use. All right. And yes, it's the basis onto which you use to assess the performance. And then within these criteria or standards that you have mentioned, that you have written, let's say in your rubric or marking guide, then you have to indicate what is considered as good performance, best performance, poor performance, average performance, for example. It depends on which terms you are using to indicate. What is poor performance? Like really like a 0 there. And which one is middle performance and which is the best performance. So that's what it means here. Okay, I think I'm just gonna finish the second this, and then I leave for the meeting. I'm already late. Next, the National Institute of Educational Development, that is NIED, is tasked with the curriculum development in conjunction with the Directorate of the National Examination and Assessment, which is DNEA. All right, and they develop the national curriculum for Namibia, as well as the curricula syllabi for the different subjects, where the assessment plans are also spelled out. So who creates the curriculum? So it's these institutions. All right, that also as well as the curricula, the syllabi, and I think also the Ministry of Education contributes to the development of these documents. All these documents are disseminated to the school. Disseminate means contribute, like what is another word? They are contributed, they are given out to the schools where it has to be implemented according to the guidelines. And remember, I think you know this by now, that we are, I think Amelia was writing something, and we know this by now that we use these documents to guide our teaching. We don't just decide on what we want to teach. And the following is an example of how the goals, objectives fit in the hierarchy. Okay, we'll look at that hierarchy, and I think that hierarchy is the last one. So we've got the mission of the university, of the institution, and then mission of the school or college. And I think they have created this in terms of the university. So we have got the mission of, let's say, University of Namibia. And then if we are to now put it in terms of the high school or secondary school that we're going to teach, we can say the mission of like education in general, and then the mission of the school. So now we have got School of Education, School of Humanities, within the faculty, within the, how do you say? Yeah, so we have the mission of the university, and then the mission of the different schools. We have got School of Education and Humanities. We have got School of Science. I don't remember all the specific ones that we have now with the new curriculum of the University of Namibia. And then we have got the program or the departments, and then we have got their goals. We have goals for each department. And then we have got program objectives and outcome. Objectives and outcomes are used interchangeably, and then that's why they fall under the same level of hierarchy. And then course objectives, all right, or course outcomes. Course unit instructional objectives, and then we have got instructional outcomes, all right. And you will see that from at the top, whatever that is stated is more general, and then when you come here at the end, that's where specificity happens. All right, the instructional objectives are more specific than, let's say, a course outcome or objective. All right, and I think we are, I don't think, but I know we are going to end here today because I need to go and join the faculty, not faculty, it's not faculty anymore, the departmental meeting that we have. All right. Oh, it's a long day. Right. I'm sorry I have to end the class here, and we'll continue on Thursday. Okay. Thank you so much for coming to the class. Now see you next time. Stop.